Some of you may be interested in how you get at these blinds in these secondary glazed units, typically fitted to a lot of ambulances. In the case of this particular one, the plastic perspex, whatever it is, secondary glazing unit is dirty. It may be condensation. You can see those sort of marks there, these rings. They are condensation stains or stains from something, and they're on the other side of the plastic. You can't rub them out. So you've got to at least get the plastic off, clean this, the other side of this plastic perspex, and also if the glass on the outside of the vehicle is dirty, then you need to get the blind out of the way to be able to do that. The blind is operated by a flexible wire cable, and you can see where the hole is. There's two little screw holes there. So it's in two parts. There's an Allen screw in the side there that clamps the actual wire braided cable. Then once these two screws are undone, this part comes off, and obviously before you can get at this part you've got to take the knob off, and again there's an Allen screw on the same side, and they are both the same size Allen screws. So once you've found one that fits that properly, you've got one that fits that properly. So you obviously have to remove those first, then take all the screws out around the piece of perspex, and I had rather hoped I would be able to actually just put a tool under here and take the plastic out. It is set back quite a way, but I thought I might be able to lever it out and get it out. But on starting, you can see the sealant. There's actually a little bit of sealant just there. The sealant's failed on this trim anyway, so I'm just going to pull the whole thing off. But if it's really well stuck in, you might be able to work your way around the corners and begin to lift an edge. You also might crack the plastic. So I think it's going to be sealant, it's going to be trim off, and then glue it back on at a later date. So let's just pull that out of the way. In fact, look at it a bit more closely. The trim has got a slot in it for the perspex, and the only places they've used a bit of sealant is actually on the perspex, just on the corners by the looks of it. I thought it was sealed all the way around, but it isn't. There's just a few blobs, as they roughly in the corners, and then once I've lifted this corner up, this piece of trim is pretty much just lifting off. There's no sealant down here at all, so it is literally just a push fit on the frame, and a few blobs just to keep the corners in place. And as you saw, that one was already coming away. It's obviously worth pointing out the blooming obvious. Once you've taken this perspex piece off, when you come to refit it, you cannot get it around the wrong way. That hole can only go in one place. There isn't a hole at the other end. You know, you can't get it back to front. The sealant is dead easy to remove from the window frame. I've literally just taken it off with a couple of little plastic scrapers. It isn't stuck on well at all. I don't think I'm even going to bother putting sealant on the rubber trim when I come to put this back together, because I don't really think it's actually doing anything of any use. What will be interesting is getting the trim to stay attached all the way around the frame, around the perspex. And if I tilt this forward, you can see just how filthy the inside of this bit of plastic is. It really is very, very dusty. So definitely worth taking it off and cleaning it. The beading clips on, it's a bit fiddly, but it clips back on around the edge of the perspex, and I've used just some standard black insulation tape to make tabs to hold it in place, because it doesn't hold on very well. It's actually held in place by the frame, which is why I don't think there's actually any sealant required. No doubt to put these windows together flat like this, so obviously you've got to be able to hold it upright, so you need something to stop the bead falling off, especially there in the centre where the join is. Right, let's go and put it back in. I can't see how you detach the blind from the top of the window, but the bottom is just held by these two little spring clips you can just lever back. And then you can lift the blind up, as I've done there. I've just got it supported with a couple of screwdrivers. But obviously you can wiggle the blind out from between the frame, move it out of the way, and then you can get at the glass and clean it. I've just used white vinegar and Obviously it helps to clean the outside first so you're not rubbing away at marks that aren't on this side. On this particular window there was water getting in and there's a little bit of mildew on the felt along there that just stops the actual blind parts rubbing, which I've just cleaned off. There's no mildew on this side. There's a lot of sealant there which catches the cloth I was using, blobby bits of sealant on mine. But right, now let's put it all back together again. Once all the screws are back in, and before tightening them up fully, take the tabs off, the tape tabs off, and just run your finger around the rubber bead just to seat it properly, and then tighten them up. I actually used the Allen key in one of the screw holes just to leave the wind up a bit, because when you put it in it's sitting basically a little bit too low. So you just square it up, then tighten all the screws up properly, and away you go. When you come to put this thing back into the knob, or the bit the knob screws onto, it may not actually come out far enough initially. When they're actually assembled, this is flush, pretty cut flush with the brass knob thing. So just rotate the knob on it, almost like screwing it on. It will wind its way on, and eventually this thing will actually stick out roughly the same level as where it was originally. Now, that's what it should like when it's put back together, with the end of the wire flush with the end of the piece of brass. And in this case I had one strand of this sort of like bicycle brake cable start to unwind, so I just had to squeeze it into the hole. It was a bit fiddly, but that's on. Now I can put the knob back on. Oh, well actually, while I was doing this I took the grub screw out. They're only tiny, fall on the floor, you never find it again, so I took it out while I was actually fiddling around putting the thing back on. And there you go, that's the second one done. And closing properly. Now on my other van, my previous van, these things automatically, if you left them closed, they'd open as you drove along and vice versa. This mechanism feels a lot stiffer. It's got some friction to it. I'm hoping they don't do that, because that was pretty annoying that the blinds just basically had a mind of their own. But there you go. And that's now two cleaned pieces of Perspex or polycarbonate or whatever it is. There and there. I'm quite happy about that.